Again, I'm insisting you cannot drink anything. You drink or eat. Let me tell you, last semester, people were here checking and the dean wrote me a big letter. Before cross-sectional came into existence, knowledge about neurology, neuroradiology was very limited. We had assumption, we did a very primitive way of understanding and doing the procedures, but once cross-sectional came into existence, neuroradiology started thriving. They started doing a lot of correction. At MD Anderson, they have this brain neuro radiology department where they do deep brain stimulation for Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, and all those stuff, which it was not thought about earlier days. You will be doing a lot of brain scan when you become a CT technologist because it's almost like a bread and butter for your CT. Just like in X-ray, we do chest X-ray all the time. So they do mostly sinuses, brain, almost every day. Ancient concept of brain. In early days, they thought brain is not that important. They thought brain has to be opened up when somebody died, because the soul has to get up through the brain. They didn't understand the complexity of brain, how it's almost like a computer, remembers a lot, and recalls. Memory is so much, there is so much storage in it. So you can see in this picture, they have something hitting out, okay? And they have like lines, and they say, they try to understand, but they couldn't, okay? They know the neuro, something to do with this. I can see all these things. I think they are putting the diagram of the nerve. Here, a little bit more about anatomy. You can see the loops. So it's almost like a cross-sectional and axial cut where they can see the brain, the gyri. Gyri are the loops. This is the actual brain, and you can see there's a thin, very thin layer of white stuff you can see. That's the pia mater. The big structure is cerebrum, the little one is cerebellum, and the other one is brain stem. There are 3 parts to our brain. Okay. Something about interesting is like, brain damage is always permanent. It used to be. But now, with all the technology, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, they are trying to correct that. We use only 10% of our brain. If we choose to, we can use almost 100% of the brain and still may not be able to know why this is being done. One side of the brain controls the other. Yeah, that's true. That's how it is. But now, if there's a paralysis that occurs with all this technology, like I'm telling you, even if there is a stroke, there are so many other things they're trying to do, stem cell implant and all this stuff to rejuvenate the brain cells. Like I told you, there are 3 parts. The biggest part is cerebrum. Next comes the cerebellum, which is a smaller cauliflower looking, and the brain stem, which comes down as spinal cord later. The cerebrum, cerebellum, brain stem starts almost from here. Okay, midbrain, pons, medulla, and then spinal cord. Cerebrum, we are going to cover mostly cerebrum today. Cerebrum is like a huge thing, okay, a big part, right, divided as right and left cerebrum. Then you have cerebellum, then this is the brain stem. And see how it is divided by a line and a fissure. Okay? We're going to talk a little bit later about that. Okay? So it is separated, the big cerebrum is separated right and left by a thin fox cerebri. Fox cerebri is part of the dura mater, is like a fold, so it comes down and separates the right and left cerebrum. The white line is the falx cerebri. This is the brain, cerebrum. What are these? This sign is this one. Inferior nasal concha. Orbit.
Optic nerve. Is medial.
Right. The white line that comes down separates what?
Cerebrum.
Right cerebrum from left cerebrum. You will see two things, okay, and you will be confused. You will see also a black stuff, okay, I mean like a dip, and a white line. The white line is the dura mater, white line is the falx cerebri. The deep black is a fissure, it's called longitudinal fissure. We'll talk to you later about that, okay? Now you know the white stuff is what? Skull, and here you see the occipital, here you're saying ear, alright. Now, whenever there is a trauma or something is going on, the first thing they see is there a midline shift? There is a midline shift. This midline, the falx cerebri, should be straight in the center. If it is pushed to one side, that means something else is pushing it, okay? So there are three separations. Falx cerebri separates the right cerebrum from the left cerebrum. Falx cerebelli separates the right cerebellum from the left cerebellum. Tentorium cerebelli divides the cerebrum from cerebellum. Okay? So here, that's the falx cerebri. If there's a line here, there will be falx cerebelli. This is like a tent. You put a tent. So this is like a tent. That is tentorium cerebelli. Okay? Okay. Right. You understand this? Okay. Now, I told you brain is very important. It has to be protected. We have skull to protect that, but we also have 3 layers of membrane so that the skull and the brain does not get hit. Okay? Suppose like you are jumping up and down, we don't want the brain to go and hit the skull, right? So there are 3 layers. The outermost is called dura mater. Dura means tough mother. So Duracell, everything came from dura, it's tough, right? The middle one, next layer is arachnoid. The third layer is pia mater. Pia mater is very delicate. It's very close to the brain. You can see the dura mater, a line, thin line. That's the dura mater. You will not be able to see pia mater. You will not be able to see subarachnoid or arachnoid space. It's a space. So the 3 layers, dura mater. Okay, let's go back. The outermost is, they are called meninges. So if there is a meningioma, that means it is a benign cancer and it is in the meninges of our brain. So it is not going to be, you're not going to be worried about that. It's a benign one. So 3 layers, outer layer is the dura mater, then comes the arachnoid, then comes the pia mater. So what is this big structure called? Cerebrum, cerebellum, this line, tentorium cerebelli. Okay. Here you are seeing something. What is that?
Pituitary gland.
Okay, very good. Okay. Dura mater is double layer. Okay, so it gets more protection. Within this 2 double layer, you have lot of things: meningeal arteries, sinuses, and then blood vessels that come in between these 2 layers. Then comes the the purpose of this is to cushion as well as protect. Okay. Other separations are fox cerebelli and tentorium cerebelli. Why is that subarachnoid space is very important? So you have dura major, then comes the arachnoid space, then comes the pia major. So after the dura major comes the subdural space, then comes the arachnoid, some subarachnoid space, then comes the pia major. The subarachnoid is very important because that is where you will come across CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Without the cerebrospinal fluid, there won't be any lubrication in your brain. Also, that fluid is very essential because it's going to protect and lubricate and carry all the things that you don't want from the brain out of the brain. So here you're seeing 3 layers: dura major, arachnoid space, and then pia major. Okay, you can see there's something else is going on that's called arachnoid cyst, okay, in the back. Here also you see arachnoid cyst. What are these? Eye, okay? Okay. Ventricles. In our brain, there are lobes, there are brain, and in between, in the middle, in the center, you have a cavity, a huge cavity, okay? It's called ventricle. The ventricles there are 4 of them. Lateral ventricles, 2 lateral ventricles, 1 third ventricle, 1 fourth ventricle. So there are 4 ventricles. You see in this picture, you see like a little frog lying there, black stuff, like these are the ventricles. Okay, the cut, the cut is little above the cerebellum. Okay, so in the middle of the cerebrum, you will see third ventricle, lateral ventricle and third ventricle. The way you are going to look at it, there is one right lateral ventricle and left lateral ventricle. Okay, the lateral ventricles are connected to the third ventricle, and then third ventricle is connected to the fourth ventricle. So there are big lateral ventricle, small third ventricle, small fourth ventricle. The way ventricles are sitting in your brain is like this. Okay, so anterior horn, temporal horn, posterior horn. We call them horn, okay, because they are like a dragon. So here, this is when I give you labeling. Suppose I do that, you will say anterior horn of the right lateral ventricle, posterior horn of the right lateral ventricle, anterior horn of the left lateral ventricle, posterior horn of the left lateral ventricle. You get it? In between these two, okay, ventricles, you have a line. Both lateral ventricles are connected by a septum called septum pellucidum. Septum pellucidum that connects the right lateral ventricle and left lateral ventricle. Then comes the third ventricle. From the lateral ventricle to the third ventricle, there's a small foramen. Foramen is that? What is a foramen? A hole. Okay. Now in this, you will see like blood vessels. They are called choroid plexus. That is where the CSF is formed. Okay. Let's go here. So sagittal view. In the sagittal view, you will see lateral ventricle right here. The roof of the lateral ventricle is a big dragon-like stuff. Then comes the third ventricle is somewhere here, but there's a huge white color structure that covers the third ventricle, lateral side, called thalamus. Then comes the fourth ventricle, right anterior to cerebellum. So this is the lateral ventricle. Third ventricle is somewhere here. This is the fourth ventricle. In a cut. Okay. I will not, in the sagittal view, I will not see the third ventricle, mainly because thalamus is on the lateral wall of the third ventricle. In the fourth, suppose I have a cut here, I will not see the fourth ventricle. If I am seeing the fourth ventricle, I will not see the lateral ventricle because I am very low, my cut is low. Okay? I explained a little bit about the ventricles. Okay. What is this horn? Frontal horn, temporal horn, occipital or posterior horn. Okay, and there is a body. Okay, this is how it is. It's the frontal horn. This is the body. This is the occipital horn, temporal horn. There is something, another side. We are seeing only one side. So there is another one. This is right lateral, there is a left lateral. And they both are connected by what? Septum pellucidum. So the third ventricle is sitting in the middle. There is a connection between the lateral ventricle and the third ventricle called foramen of Monroe, like actress Marilyn Monroe. Monroe, okay? Or they also can say, there's another name, interventricular foramen. Okay? Then comes the third ventricle to the fourth ventricle, there is a connection that is called sylvus of aqueduct. Sylvus of aqueduct or cerebral aqueduct. Then comes the fourth ventricle. There are two openings. One is Megendie, the other one is Lakshka. You don't have the Lakshka here. Megendie and Lakshka. These are the foramens. Why do you need all these foramen? Okay? Why can't we have a structure so just straight? Because the CSF that forms here has to get out. It cannot just rotate through here. If it rotates through here, you will have brain headache. A lot of like fluid will accumulate, and then meningitis and all those things. When there is no drainage, they have the pressure accumulates in your brain. They have to open it up. So in order for us to have equilibrium and proper brain activity, your cerebrospinal fluid has to get out of the brain. It will form, but it has to get out. So it comes here, it is formed here, it goes from here to here to here, gets out, and then goes all the way around and comes down to spinal cord. So when we do the lumbar puncture, we are looking at the CSF and send it to the lab. If there is blood or if it is yellow in color, they suspect something else, and so they send the whole thing to the lab for analysis. Here, what are these two? Lateral ventricle. What is the in-between connection?
Tent something.
No, folks,
No, that is the foramen. These two are connected by septum pellucidum. What is this? Third ventricle. The foramen is foramen of Monroe. This is the connection between third and the fourth is what? Cerebral aqueduct or sylvus, aqueduct of sylvus. Then fourth, then we have Lakshka and Megendie. Okay, so that's what it is. What is which are the ventricles that Monroe connects? Foramen Monroe connects. Third and third. What about sylvus of aqueduct? So how does CSF gets out of fourth ventricle? There are two openings. Megendie and Lakshka. Okay. Now that's what I'm saying here. Look at this. Okay. What horn is this?
Front.
Frontal or
Right.
Anterior.
Anterior.
Okay.
Posterior.
Or,
I-
okay. Okay.
Temporal.
You can say like this is the third ventricle, that is the fourth ventricle. Okay. That's what I'm saying, Lakshka and Magendi. Then you have choral plexus. Choral plexus are in the ventricle, mostly posterior. That's where the CSF is formed. All right. Now, what is, how do you say this?
Anterior horn of lateral vertebra.
Very good. Okay. Okay. How do you say this one? Very good. Okay. Left lateral ventricle. Okay. Now, who will tell me the little frame in here?
Third
Monroe.
ventricle.
Somebody said foramina?
Monroe.
Okay. Now here, what is, if there is a white line, what is it called?
Cerebellum. Cerebellum.
Fox?
Cerebri.
Cerebri. Okay. And all this, the whole thing is skull. So here is the frontal lobe. We're going to talk a little later. Okay, look at the line here. White line, what is that?
Fox cerebri.
Okay. You can see septum. Septum. Elucidum. Okay. Good. This is the third ventricle. Here, the cut is very back. Okay, it's a coronal cut. Why am I saying it's so back?
Cerebellum.
And you are saying cerebellum, you're saying what? What is this? Tentorium cerebelli. Okay. What is this coming down? What's that? Brain stem. Here you see the, only near the cerebellum you will see what? Fourth ventricle. Okay. This is the lateral ventricle. What is this deep black stuff? Longitudinal fissure, because it's deep, right? Okay. Now, what are the diseases that happens if when in the ventricle? Any one? Hydrocephalus, meningitis. Okay, these are very common. All right, systems. I told you CSF is formed where?
Posterior.
Choroid plexus where? Ventricles, right? It goes through, comes out and goes all around, right? When it goes all around, there are spaces which are deep, real wide. They are called cisterns. They are called cisterns. They are wide cooling place. Okay, you will have we have lots of cisterns. You will know by the structure very close to these cisterns. Cistern magna, the big one. Interpeduncular, there are peduncles. Very close to that is interpeduncle. Pontine, pons, very close to the pons. Cerebellopointine angle cistern, very close to the pons in an angle. Ambient cistern goes around the midbrain. Quadrigeminal, there is a quadrigeminal plate, very close to that is quadrigeminal cistern. Suprasellar, sella turcica, superior to that is suprasellar. You will be able to identify almost everyone. Okay, let's go here. So, CSF comes from here to here to here, gets out. Y'all understand that? Alright. When it gets out here, after the fourth ventricle, it comes out. Look at the pond. Very close to this pontine cistern. It's a sella turcica. Very close to it will be suprasellar cistern. And this will be the big cisterna magna. Huge. Alright. CSF gets out. Pontine cistern. Suprasellar cistern comes out, goes out everywhere. Cisterna magna scale. That's the largest one. Interpeduncular is in between the peduncles. Pontine, very close to the pons. Cerebellopontine is important because cranial nerves are coming there. Ambient connects the interpeduncular and quadrigeminal. Quadrigeminal is a plate. It's very close to that. Suprasellar above sella. Here. Again, you can easily identify pontine cistern, suprasellar cistern, cistern magna. In a axial view, you will see always like the middle is going to be sella turcica. So suprasellar cistern will be somewhere here. This is the midbrain. Surrounding that is ambient cistern, and very close to the cerebellum will be quadrigeminal cistern. This is cisterna magna. Anything? Any question here? Anything that you didn't understand? Let's go to the real picture. What will be here? Okay. If there is sella turcica, what will be there? Suprasellar cistern. This is the midbrain. Surrounding that will be ambient. Closer to the cerebellum will be quadrigeminal, because there are 4 plates called quadrigeminal, 4 plates. Quadro is 4. There are going to be 4 plates here, quadrigeminal plates. So the cistern very close to that is quadrigeminal cistern. Okay. What's wrong here?
Assist.
Something is wrong.
Assist.
Yeah. Cisterna magna is not draining. Okay. Now this is sella turcica. What will be the cistern there? Okay. If this is a midbrain, surrounding will be ambient. What will be closer here? Quadrigeminal, but here you are seeing the 4th ventricle. Okay. Quadrigeminal cistern will be very close to the midbrain and cerebellum. Alright, this one is very important, I kept telling, okay, because nerves are there, ear nerves. This angle is called cerebellopontine angle cistern. It's a big name, okay? This cistern, cerebellopontine angle cistern, basilar artery, 4th ventricle. What is this called? Cerebellum. Cerebellum. When there is a palm leaf structure, cerebellum. Okay. We're going to go to what all the things we covered? Two major things.
Ventricles.
Ventricles and
Cistern.
okay. What about the brain coverings, membrane?
Epidermal matter.
We covered that also. Okay. Now, in the cerebrum, the top, okay, suppose this is the cerebrum. Okay, the cerebrum. So you can play with this later, okay? The top is always gray. The inside is white matter. Gray matter, white matter, okay? There are loops. The loops are gyri, and they are shallow things called sulci. Deep is called fissure. The whole brain. Okay, I think it's here. I had another brain, I don't know, somebody took it and they didn't bring it back from their office. Okay, you can look. There is a very important sulcus. Okay, let's go over again. There are loops. The loops are called gyri. Very shallow one is called sulci. Deep one is called fissure. In the sulcus, there's one sulcus that's very, very important called central sulcus. The central sulcus is like that. There is a gyri in the previous to that, and pre-gyri, pre-central gyri, and then the post-central gyri. These two gyri are very important because what happens when I touch, when I see, okay, or when I talk, all my senses, all the sensory things that go from my eyes, my hand, everything goes to the post-central sulci. Okay, then suppose it's very hot. My brain tells me take your hand off, right? That goes from the instruction comes from the pre-central sulci. So all the sensory things goes to the back, then all the instruction comes from the pre-central sulci. So that's important, okay? Okay. Here you see, this is the central sulci, pre-gyri, post-gyri, okay? So those are very important because they are the ones that carry our senses and instructions, okay? All right, here. This sulci, this is the pre-central gyri, post-central gyri, this is the central sulcus. Unless they label this, I will not be able to say which is central sulci, okay? Because we are not that educated. But it is obvious. The doctors can find out. But you should know why among the sulcus, central sulcus is very important. It has a gyri pre and post, and they have some functions. What is that? Okay. All right. They are looking at a white line. What is that?
This white matter.
Okay. What could be this low? Frontal lobe.
No, temporal lobe.
Temporal lobe.
Eye.
Okay.
Sinus.
Fissure. There are two fissure. One is longitudinal, the other one is sylvan. The longitudinal fissure separates right from the left. Sylvan divides the frontal from the parietal. They both are divided from the temporal lobe. Okay, temporal lobe is inside. Here you see the longitudinal fissure, and this one will be the sylvan fissure. What are the two fissures? talk about? Okay, which one is divides the temporal from the parietal lobe? Sylvan. Okay. Which divides the right, left hemisphere? Longitudinal. Okay. Told you gray is on top, white is in the lower part. There are neurons, axons. Neurons are in gray matter, axons are in the white matter. You don't have to know a lot about that, but you should know how, like, you know, they connect. The cortex. The cortex is on the top of our brain. That is very important because it receives the sensory input and also gives you the instructions to run, or they tell the muscle go faster or and go slow or talk or whatever. Okay. The white matter, among the white matter that is inside our brain, it's a big white matter called corpus callosum. Corpus callosum is like a dragon. It forms the roof of the lateral ventricle, and also it connects the right from the left cerebrum. This is the corpus callosum. Tell me the part. You tell me the parts. Stop. Tell me the parts of the corpus callosum.
The body.
And you all should have gone through this before you come to my class. So tell me.
What's the question?
The part of corpus callosum. Restaurant of the corpus callosum.
Okay, you tell me.
Genio of the corpus callosum.
Okay.
Body.
Okay.
Splenium.
Okay. Anybody else? What did he say?
You want to see the difference? Okay, so rostrum, body.
All right. Rostrum. Then you. Okay. Which is anterior? Which is posterior?
Rostrum is anterior.
These are
Anterior.
posterior. Okay. So if you are going to have a cut here, okay, what do you see? Suppose I'm cutting like this.
Just a splenium.
The spinal corpus callosum.
Okay, and
Thank
you will see all those stuff. Okay. Okay, what's that?
Anterior connector.
Genio, corpus,
Body.
body,
Splenium.
and splenium.
Okay. There are 4 parts: rostrum, genio, body, and splenium. Okay. What is the other thing that you know about the big corpus callosum? It forms the okay. So this is the corpus callosum. What is that?
Splenium,
Body.
genio,
Rostrum.
No.
No.